What if Usopp, not Luffy, becomes the true hero of Elbaf?
Welcome to Anime Dimension, where we explore anime mysteries, theories, and the hidden secrets behind the stories we love.
Right now, Luffy, Loki, and Hajrudin are standing against Emu. But while everyone is focused on that massive battle, Oda may be quietly setting up something completely different. Because two of the most unexpected Straw Hats could decide how this battle ends: Brook and Usopp. Brook may discover the secret behind Emu's power, and Usopp could use that information to make the greatest shot of his entire life. But even that might not be Usopp's biggest moment, because after dreaming about Elbaf since Little Garden, this could finally be where Usopp becomes what he has always wanted to be, a brave warrior of the sea. Let's start with Brook. Oda has given Brook and Gunkko a mysterious connection that clearly goes deeper than their current encounter. Gunkko recognized Brook from his past, and despite everything happening across Elbaf, Oda continues bringing these two characters together. So, why? What if Gunkko knows something that could change the entire battle? Gunkko has been incredibly close to Emu and the Gods' Knights. That could make her one of the few characters on Elbaf capable of revealing information about how their strange abilities actually work. Because we've now seen regeneration, contracts, transformations, and abilities that seem almost impossible to overcome. But these powers aren't completely unbeatable. They have rules. And if Emu's new form follows similar rules, then Luffy may not need another power-up. He may need information. And Gunkko could be the person who has it. And this is where Brook becomes extremely interesting. Brook isn't simply another devil fruit user. Brook has already died. His soul returned from the underworld. He can separate his soul from his body, and his abilities allow him to interact with the spiritual side of the One Piece world in ways almost nobody else can. Now, compare that with Emu. Emu's abilities appear connected to unnatural longevity, regeneration, and mysterious supernatural powers. So what if Brook notices something the others can't? Maybe Gunkko reveals a weakness involving Emu's contracts. Maybe there's a limitation to Emu's current transformation. Or perhaps Brook discovers something completely different involving the soul. We don't know the exact answer yet, but that's the theory. Brook and Gunkko discover the missing piece needed to stop Emu, and then comes the problem. Luffy is already fighting Emu. How do they get that information to him? That's where Usopp comes in.
Oda has already established something important about Usopp: observation Haki. Back in Dressrosa, Usopp awakened it during one of the most important shots of his life. From an enormous distance, he was able to sense his targets and make an almost impossible shot. But since then, Oda has done surprisingly little with Usopp's observation Haki. What if Elbaf is finally where that changes? And there's another interesting detail. During the current crisis, Usopp realizes something is wrong with Luffy through his Haki. That could simply show how worried he is about his captain. But what if it's also setup? What if Usopp's next major observation Haki moment isn't about simply sensing Luffy, but finding him? Imagine Brook and Gunkko discover something crucial about Emu. Luffy needs that information immediately, but Brook can't reach him in time. That's when Usopp realizes what he has to do. He closes his eyes, and everything around him disappears. He senses the warriors across Elbaf: Zoro, Sanji, the giants, Hajrudin, Loki, and finally, Luffy. The same presence Usopp was worried about earlier, except now he can pinpoint exactly where his captain is. Usopp raises Kabuto, and suddenly we're watching a much bigger version of what happened in Dressrosa. Except this time the target isn't Sugar, and the person Usopp is trying to save isn't only Luffy, it's all of Elbaf. Whatever Brook discovers, whether it's information, an object, or something else Oda establishes, Usopp has one opportunity to get it to Luffy. One shot, from an impossible distance. Usopp fires, and it reaches him. Dressrosa could have been where Usopp awakened observation Haki. Elbaf could be where he finally masters it. But even that wouldn't complete Usopp's story. Because Usopp didn't come to Elbaf simply to become a better sniper. Ever since Little Garden, Usopp has admired Dory and Broggy. To him, the warriors of Elbaf represented everything he wanted to become. strong, honorable, and most importantly, brave. That's why Elbaf has always been different for Usopp. For Luffy, this is another incredible island on his journey. But for Usopp, this is the place connected directly to his dream. So I don't believe Oda brought Usopp here just to watch Luffy save everyone. Usopp needs a defining moment, and Imu may provide the perfect opportunity. Imagine Imu's new form begins overwhelming the battlefield. Luffy is struggling, Loki and Hajrudin are struggling, and even some of Elbaf's legendary warriors hesitate. For the first time, the people Usopp has idolized since Little Garden are confronted by something that genuinely terrifies them. And then, Usopp steps forward. Not because he's stronger than them, and definitely not because he's suddenly fearless. Usopp is shaking. He's terrified. Every part of him wants to run. But he doesn't, because that is what Usopp's dream has always really been about. Being brave doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means you move forward despite it. Imagine the panel. Imu stands before Elbaf. The giants hesitate, and this tiny human walks forward and raises his slingshot against the ruler of the world. Maybe everyone thinks he's insane. Even Usopp probably thinks he's insane, but he fires anyway, and the giants see it. One warrior gets back up, then another, until the warriors of Elbaf begin standing behind Usopp. And that's when Usopp's entire story comes full circle. Because for almost the entire series, Usopp wanted to become like the giants. But now, the giants become brave because of Usopp. That could be the moment Usopp finally earns the title he has been chasing since the beginning of One Piece. A brave warrior of the sea. Then everything comes together. Brook and Gunkko uncover the missing information. Usopp gets it to Luffy. The warriors of Elbaf regain their courage, and Luffy finally understands how to fight back against Imu's new power. Loki and Hajrudin join him, and together they exploit whatever weakness Brook discovered. But I don't think Imu permanently loses here. Imu is simply too important to the final story. Instead, Luffy and the warriors of Elbaf accomplish something almost as important. They force Imu to retreat. For perhaps the first time in centuries, Imu personally comes to destroy a nation and fails. Elbaf refuses to submit. And after the battle, imagine how the giants tell this story. They don't remember Usopp as the strongest person there. They remember something much more important. When the warriors of Elbaf hesitated before the ruler of the world, one terrified human still raised his weapon. And for once, Usopp doesn't need to exaggerate the story. He doesn't need to lie, because he actually did it. He stood against Imu. He helped save Elbaf. And the warriors he has admired since Little Garden finally recognize him as one of their own. Usopp, the brave warrior of the sea. And that may be the real reason Oda brought Imu to Elbaf. Luffy may land the attack that forces Imu away. Brook may discover the secret that makes it possible. But Usopp could become the person who gives Elbaf the courage to stand back up. And after more than 1,000 chapters of calling himself a brave warrior, Elbaf may finally be the place where Usopp no longer has to lie. And if you enjoyed this theory, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Anime Dimension for more One Piece theories and anime mysteries. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.